Yesterday was a big day for me. I recorded. I wrote in my journal. I decided because of the height keeping track of thing, might as well also keep track of everything else. So I had one of the girls. She took pictures of like my body and my face from the fronts and sides and stuff like that. I was like, who's the person in these pictures? It doesn't look anything like me. I've been trying to look in the mirror. It's getting hard. Um, to not notice how much I'm not me, but at the same time, that's probably the point. Anyway, I don't like looking at myself at all. Um, Obviously, I still exercised, all that jazz. Um, but I also did some other stuff. I told another friend about me, another Australian friend who won't tell my family, and she was very supportive and nice about it and everything. So that's exciting for me, I guess, because there's one more person who won't care. Honestly, I don't think pretty much any of my friends will care. I think the people who care are who I'm blood related to, for the most part. So that sucks. But I was thinking about it, and on my birth mother side, I pretty much have no contact with pretty much any family there. Um, but I do have an aunt on that side who I think would still talk to me 3 times a year, just the same as she has before. I don't really think my relationship with her will change. Um, you know, she won't give a damn. But I pulled out all of my stuff from when I was a child and when I was growing up, like all the old photo albums, my old school stuff, my old journals, because I've been journaling since I was like freaking 12, whatever it was, 13. So, I mean, I have like my thoughts from all my teenage years and my crazy, and I have my thoughts from my early 20s, and so I was pulling stuff out and everything, and I went through every picture in every photo album, and I'm very visual. And when I was growing up, we were very poor, and there was basically no like videos made of us kids, almost completely at all. And I'm the keeper of the only two that there are. And one of them's just of my brothers at a wrestling match, and me cheering for them and wishing I could wrestle too. And the other one um, is, you know, basically my brothers would make these really like silly videos and stuff when they were, you know, youngish, middle-ish teenagers, and I have all those funny videos or whatever. The only video that's ever been recorded of me at all was like speech or whatever, a presentation that I did at college. That's it. Nothing. Um, but yeah, that's that's all there is recordings of us. So at some point as I was growing up, I started just taking pictures of everything and everyone. So I actually, for instance, have like 6 or 7 times the pictures of my family members and, my siblings and stuff as they were growing up as anyone else. Um, and some of those pictures are of me. There's not a lot of pictures of me from when I was a teenager. I was an aggressive, not happy, miserable person, so there's not a lot going on there. Um, but there were some, and there's obviously the most pictures when I was like a baby and stuff before, parents sort of wean off on taking pics of their kids as their kids get older and life gets harder and so on. So, Um, I didn't really pay much attention to the baby pictures, except my favorite picture of me ever was the baby picture where they thought I was going to be a boy. Like, that's my favorite picture of myself. It's so silly. Um, um, I had some pictures from like school and stuff for like, the first grade and the second grade and the third grade and fourth grade. And in one of them, flat out, the girls both agreed I looked like a boy. Um, but, most of my getting dressed when I was young was determined by my mother. And as I got older, um, especially because my parents weren't, together, um, I would see my dad during the summers and I would get to pick how I dressed. A lot more during the summer. He didn't enforce anything the way that my mother did the rest of the year. Although she slowly began to not be able to do stuff about that either. But like during the summers, you can see me in like, just a t-shirt and jeans and like ball caps and stuff. I had this one t-shirt that had like volleyball going down the front that was like burgundy colored. I wore that apparently from like age 8 all the way up to like 14, 13 years old. I loved that shirt. Every summer I would wear it. I wore it till it was holy. And in the back of the shirt was like this guy like diving down to get the ball in the sand. Yeah, I loved that shirt. But no, no, the girls said that from the front it looked like a girl shirt, and from the back it looked like it could be a boy shirt, so it could go either way. It wasn't really. I looked very androgynous most of my growing up. I looked like I was in like these baggy clothes, but I would wear like a necklace or something to try to fem it up or whatever, to make it more acceptable, make people more comfortable with what I was wearing. And like, you know, the church ladies would be wearing like hats of flowers on them and stuff. And it was only noticeable how much more androgynous I looked than them when we were all together in a picture. And here's me in just like this baggy sweater with a baggy jeans and guy shoes and then a necklace or something, and then long hair. I wasn't allowed to have short hair. I could see the times I cut my hair. It, yeah, I wasn't allowed to have short hair, but I did attempt to cut my hair several times, and you could tell I had tried to cut my own hair. Like you could tell. But yeah, my mother was never okay with that. But it's just I wouldn't say. I don't know. I went back looking to see if I had ever just flat out looked outright like a boy. I don't know that I did very much because A, it was not allowed at all. B, I don't know if I understood that that was even a possibility, that I could actually be a boy. I wanted to be with the boys, I wanted to hang out with the boys, but I also wanted to be with the girls because I liked the girls. I had crushes on the girls, and I wanted to be one of the boys, like, you know, be a bro or whatever, like I was very in both places as a child. So, in, you want a girl to be attracted to you, you try to be attractive, you try to be prettier. Oh my gosh, I had a teacher during college spend like every, week she would have me come over for dinner one night and she'd teach me about makeup and she bought me my first button-up shirt and it was like, of course pink stripes because she picked it out, but she taught me, like she took me to get my hair cut, she did like all these things trying to help me be more girly. And what I found amusing was at the end of it when I graduated college and stuff, like, yeah, I was wearing makeup, yeah, it was a girlier haircut, yeah, I had flowers on my shirt, but it was like a beach shirt and the flowers were just tropical. It was like funny to me that she had spent 2 years of her life trying to make me as girly as possible, and this was as far as she could get me. And I had been hurt at the time because at the end of those 2 years, she like was like, I don't think I should mentor you anymore, and I hadn't understood why. She was like, go be free. I think you're ready to just go be on your own with this stuff. And I was just like, okay, well, what was that? It was kind of like, are we still friends? Like, this was a weird speech, right? It was, I think just frustration. I wasn't getting any girlier after a certain point. And I embraced some of it because I wanted girls to like me. But as I get older from that point onward, I just, there's less and less and less of all of it to the point where every single thing she taught me, I don't do now. Like, none of it, because none of it's comfortable for me. It's all a waste of time for me. Honestly, lesbians were into all of that stupid makeup and shit. So there was no reason to keep doing it. um, when I was really little, I, you know, I had some school stuff and things from that, from like preschool and first grade. Although preschool, technically, I was homeschooled, but, um, especially from first grade, I had this like book thing about how marvelous I am and all these little things about me. And of course, being a child, I wrote very simplistic and silly answers to some things. But it was interesting. First of all, I was obsessed with being good and terrified of being bad. And I don't know why no one caught that. Why would a child be so scared of being bad? Like, I wrote it for every answer where it was like, I wish I could never be bad, or I wish I could be good and not bad. Like, it was like, huh, maybe this child has a reason to be afraid of being bad. What happens to you when you're bad? No one ever asked me that. Anyway, um, second thing, I apparently was terrified of slavery. Like, when you get on stage, what do you want to be? Good. When you get on stage, what do you not want to be? I do not want to be sold. What is the worst thing that you think you could be? A slave. I don't know if I watched some sort of documentary or I had just learned about slavery or what it was, but there's this little, first grader writing about she doesn't want to be a slave. Anyway, um, I liked sports. The other children wrote things that they liked about me, and apparently I was a good runner, a good reader. I knew those things. I was reading at a very young age. They liked the things that I drew, and they thought I had a good sense of HUUMUR humor. Um, I was an outdoor kid. I was loud. I thought that I was ornery. I actually attempted to spell the word ornery. Spellings in these things were really cute. I think I spelled grass as GRRESSE. Like, first grader joys. Anyway, I've never been great at spelling, don't judge me. But the really interesting thing was they had us draw a picture of our family. And my dad is, this little blob man with pants and stuff. My mother is this little blob woman with girl hair, which girl hair to me apparently was this, like, shape right here on my little like, stick figure blob people. And she had a dress. And then the next person was me, and I had girl hair, but I was wearing pants. And then my brother next after me had boy hair, but he was wearing a dress, and then my baby brother had boy hair and pants. And I used to make my brothers wear dresses off of, I had these big, like, stuffed dolls. I don't know where I got them. I probably got them from my grandmother, if I had to guess. But anyway, and I would make my brothers wear the dresses off of these, like, stuffed animal dolls. And I would just leave the dolls naked all the time. I had a Rainbow Bright doll that I got when I was young. I loved that doll so freaking much. But she had no clothes. And I would drag her around by her hair with no clothes on. I Whatever. Anyway, um, most of my dolls and Barbies and toys, as I got older, still kept losing their clothes. It was a thing. Anyway, that I did. The main thing is, I remember thinking that that was a good picture, that I did a good job, and I giggled a little bit about my brother. And I remember going home and my mother commenting about it. And I remember I told her a big long story, but I do not remember what I said. It's interesting how you can remember scenarios pretty well if you have a good strong memory where you can remember back that far, but I can't remember like exactness of words at all. I remember I thought I was clever though at the end of my big long story because I got away with it. But I don't know. She was suspicious of why did I have pants and why did I put a dress on my brother, you know. Um but I thought that was the only thing that I could find that was overly telling from my school stuff in any way, shape, or form. Um, I mean, little girls can like sports and running and be good runners. Little girls can like math and reading and draw good things and have a good sense of humor. Like all of the things that were in there, little girls can be scared of being a slave. Um, I don't know. Maybe my mother started telling me about the Irish because she did do that as we were growing up about the railroads and how, you know, um, basically blacks, Asians, and Irish just went to die basically to build the railroads across America and stuff. So it might have been that. I don't know. She did that story time for me. It was real fun, guys, when I was a child. Sometimes. Um, anyway, so here I am 5 or 6, and I see myself with pants. But I always wanted to wear pants. I fought her on dresses for Sunday so hard. I hated it. I didn't want it so much. I also fought her on, for some reason, she liked curling around the front of my face for pictures, like family pictures and stuff. So once a year we would have to get these, pictures done. And I, I mean, I would fight her. I hated it. I did not want those curls for nothing. And I don't know how, but somehow as I got older, I convinced her to stop doing that to me. But honestly, I look back at it, I don't know why she liked it because it's like curls right here, and then the rest of my hair is straight. Like, what was the point of making me look like I had a mullet? Like, I don't know. She liked it, so that's what happened to me. My birth mother liked the curls. She thought it was cute. Whatever. I I found my myself remembering why I liked certain clothes and things as I looked at them in the pictures, and I read school stuff and it just made me angry. Like, I flat out in some of my school stuff wrote about abuse, and no one ever once helped me. It wasn't just that no one in the church helped me, no one in school helped me either. Like, I don't know how you be an adult and you see a kid writing about abuse that happened to them less than a year ago, and you don't say, should someone call the cops? I don't understand it. Maybe it was just a different time. I don't know, but it doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, my dad also took us to a lot of amazing places. He would work hard all year and save up so that those 2 months of the summer we felt safe and happy, and he would just take us to Redwood Forest or Disneyland or out to the desert or to petting zoos, and he would take us to Yellowstone. And like, my dad tried really, really hard to make our lives less worse, and I appreciate that. I appreciate how hard he had to work to do that. Like, at one point, he made himself so poor so that he could afford to give us good things that he was living in a barn when we weren't living with him, and then he actually moved into a house again for the summer so that we had a house and stuff, but like, and he had a hard job. He was a bricklayer, so he tried really, really hard. And I appreciate that he let me dress how I chose to. During the summers, I didn't have to try to fem it up at all. And that was a big thing for me. He took us to all these music festivals, so many, at the George Gorge up in Washington. It's this beautiful, like, canyon, and, like, it's so hot there. Oh my gosh, it's so hot. But it's so gorgeous, and the stage is right in front of the canyon. And, the big main stage. There's obviously other stages, and, he would take us out there. He did a lot. Anyway, we, grew up in a very religious way and stuff. So a lot of my journaling is about me begging God to help me not sin and things like that. A lot of my drawings in my journaling is very symbolic of, like, very religious themes, or of, like, some weird version of teenage me doing stuff. But interestingly, there were a couple of spots where, for instance, I was writing about change and future changes that I would like to see and stuff. And I was drawing a picture of myself as a guy, and I was buying a house, and then I had a woman in the house, and then later I sold the house, and my woman and I were leaving the house because we were getting a bigger house because we had kids. I drew that when I was like 17, and I was like, I don't remember drawing this. And then at another point when I was like 17, I drew me if I had grown up as a boy. And I looked like so happy through each stage of my life. I drew me as a baby, I drew me as a toddler, I drew me as a little boy running around, and a teenager, and a man. And I was just like, why was I drawing this? I don't remember doing that at all. I do remember I had dreams a lot. I still do. I've always dreamt of myself either in situations and I didn't have a body, it was more like first person view, or else if I could see my body, I either was some sort of like fantasy creature, like of some sort, or alien creature or something, or else I was a guy. Literally. I've always dreamt that way. I, can remember when I was a teenager dreaming that way and being like ashamed or worried, especially sex dreams. Sex dreams, I'm pretty much 100% of the time a guy. Always. I used to try to imagine sex the other way around, and it just was rape 100% of the time because I could not be comfortable with it. I could not fathom being comfortable with it. And that was before um, those dreams and stuff was even before um, certain things started happening. So um, I I I had issues with that. It was like there was two different me's. Um, Even when I went crazy when I was a teenager, and in my early 20s, I struggled with sanity a lot, and stuff because of stuff I had been through. I worked through it by myself. I did not actually ever get a therapist for that. I did talk to a therapist a couple of times and get a little bit of therapy for some things, but I didn't do it for that in specific, um, which was probably not the smartest idea, but I worked through it myself to the best of my ability. And I mean, really dark insanity. Anyway, you know, it was interesting because I developed two pseudo personalities for years and years. And one of them was this cute sweet, like almost angel girl who had claws on her hands. And she was very innocent, and she couldn't feel pain. Pain translated as pleasure for her. So when she was out and about, everything was okay. It's okay. Everything's great. Um, I I don't know how that happened. Like literally, I would be in physical pain to where I could hardly move, and then she would, I'd let her come out and I could just play. I, I don't know. It's weird what your brain can do. The other one was extremely aggressive and somewhat vicious, but also very horny and masculine and basically the husband role, but very violent form of it, or something toward myself, especially. I did a lot of self harm with that. And my whole life, I felt like there was these two things. There was this dominant side of me that was very strong and powerful and ready to take anything on, not afraid, not intimidated, just confident and powerful and horny. Very sexual and very aggressive. And I've, thankfully learned how to temper all of those things. And then there's this other side that was innocent and didn't understand why things were happening, but everything would be okay. It's like that meme where, everything's on fire and the little dog's in the middle and he's like, "This is fine." That was basically this other side of me. And I was trying to, live with this constant going back and forth, with always being one of these two extremes. And I remember that, like, even when I was a kid, having that problem. I was either quiet and self introverted and just wanted to be in my room by myself, or else I was running everywhere and I was loud and I wanted to be with all the kids and I was going to be the leader, and I was always a leader. Um, like, it's interesting looking back on it all. Um, 17 is also when I read through my journal entries, like literally all the way through 17, from like 12, 13, so that was a decent amount of entries. But I read and read until I found the first time I ever outright lamented that I was not a boy, in my writing. Because I did it multiple times, but the first time I was also 17. So I think I don't remember a crisis or something that I was having about that. Um, I remember being very upset. I remember some of the circumstances that happened when I was 17. I had every right to be upset. Um, I just, I didn't remember that in particular, and that was a recurring theme about me when I was 17. And um, I found that interesting. Um, that basically when I was 17, I knew there was something wrong about me being a girl, and that I knew there would be something right about me being a boy. And I genuinely felt that way. Um, I've been thinking more about coming out to my family. I don't think maybe some of them will even be shocked based on how I dressed my whole life. Um, I don't know. I'm not even doing it. I'm just considering it. But yeah. I also have been thinking about, you know, the worst case scenarios with testosterone. For some reason, I feel more comfortable with the surgeries. I feel like testosterone is a Pandora's box of what it's going to do to your body, and you don't get to decide any of it. It just does it. But with surgery, Yeah, it's painful. Yeah, it's expensive. Yeah, there's recovery time. Yeah, there could be complications. There's all this stuff, but there's a decent odds that you'll end up with this result. Whereas with testosterone, it's like, I know um, I could go on a lower dose of it and things like that. And I was watching someone who had detransitioned because I don't just watch transition vids, I watch detransition vids too because I want to understand how everyone thought to the best of my ability and compare it to my own thoughts and make sure before I do anything that I'm doing the thing that will help and not harm because I can't continue on without that. And it was someone who detransitioned to basically non-binary. And I realized, oh, duh, I could just do that. I already am non-binary, so it's not like if I ever, for some strange reason, regretted transitioning, which I extremely doubt I would ever do, but um, even if somehow I did, I could just go back to being non-binary. Like, duh. I don't know why that hadn't occurred to me before. Yesterday. So I'm already did not consider myself a girl, so um, my parents still do, but I mean, whatever. I think non-binary has just been a way for me to make it more comfortable for them um, to be able to still think of me as a girl. I don't actually think that I am non-binary, but I'm still doing therapy and stuff, so we'll see. Um, but I was thinking about worst case scenarios. Um, like for instance, hysterectomy. There's a very small chance, you know, you can get stuff like osteoporosis or anemia. Well, I already have anemia. My blood's already a little weird, so whatever. It's manageable. I take my 65 milligrams of iron when I remember to. I'm supposed to take it every day, but it's not quite every day. But I can tell when I don't take it because, after a little while I start passing out and stuff, and of going like a couple of weeks without taking it, I start getting really tired and really run down, and my limbs will start feeling like, why are we not getting any energy? And then I'm like, oh, duh, I gotta go take my iron. Um, but like, I already have some arthritis issues because of how I grew up and everything. So, I don't want my bones to be fragile. I don't want the pH to change in my mouth and my teeth to go bad. But at the same time, those are all like worst case scenarios. And I would not have both ovaries removed, even though I I would love that. But I recognize the need for hormone levels to be functional, and I have to be a functional person because I take care of another person. So um, weirdly, my number one surgery would be a hysterectomy. I I have always been acutely aware. I remember when I started puberty when I was like 7 and 8. I got my period for the first time when I was 8, which I realized I hit puberty kind of early. But like, just so upset that that's inside of me, and it's never gone away. It feels like a freaking parasitic organism. Just I wanted a hysterectomy when I was 20. They wouldn't let me have it. Maybe now I could get that. That's something. Um, that would be amazing. And then bottom surgery, and then top surgery is actually my least. I think I have a very okay relationship with my boobs. I wouldn't say I hate them. Um, I don't not like them. Um, but I wouldn't say I have like a ton of issue with them. except that they make me look less masculine, but they also attract women, in my experience. So I have like these positive experiences of girls fawning over me because of my cleavage. So I think I have like this mixed relationship with my chest. Um, I do not have a mixed relationship with the rest of it though. My shape, I wish was more masculine. My body's shape, and I would love to have an Adam's apple so fucking much. I've wanted an Adam's apple since I was like 13 or 14. I I don't feel shame about body hair anymore, so that's something. Um, which is strange because literally since I was 7 years old and I first tried to cut my body hair off with my little scissors, I've always felt shame about my body hair. So that's strange. Um, Anywho, um, I need to stop thinking about all this. I had a point. Sorry, ADD moments. my, my brain wanders. I was thinking about worst case scenarios. If testosterone gave me every bad result and none of the good results, and even if I went on a small dose, I had horrible acne through all of puberty, and so did my brothers, and so did everyone. It's very much in my family genes. So I would spend several years probably with horrific acne again, and I remember how shitty that was. I don't want to deal with that again, but it would be worth it for an Adam's apple. Oh, for that one single change by itself, it would be worth it. But that's not the change that, that's not a guaranteed change. What are pretty much the quote unquote mostly universal changes are more emotional and mental. What it does to your physical body. Some people get fat redistribution, some people don't. Some people gain weight, some people gain muscle, some people, their voice lowers a lot. Some of them, their voice just ends up cracking. Like, the list goes on and on. Testosterone is not a guarantee. But even people who have detransitioned agree that testosterone made them feel more confident. It lowered their depression. It lowered a lot of their mental stuff. I don't expect that it would do anything for PTSD. Um, it's already just the thought of doing it and letting my body hair grow out has helped significantly with dermatillomania for me. And that is something that I've struggled with my entire life. And yet, here I am, almost hardly picking at myself at all. Like, not even every day. Never in my entire life. People tried everything under the sun to get me to stop tearing at myself, and my fingers especially, and nothing works. I can't go an hour without tearing at myself the rest of my life. But over the last month, it's just significant. And I look at that and I think, even if the only thing that I got from testosterone that was good, and from having surgery that was good, even if there was a complication with every single thing, even if all of the stuff looked like a hack job and I had horrible scars and I had to get implants because all my teeth fell out because of pH balance issues, and I got osteoporosis and my bones were brittle, and my body didn't change like at all on testosterone except in worse ways. Even if somehow all of that was true, if I could present myself as myself, if I could feel more confident about myself, um, if I could just wake up and not immediately feel like, well, I guess I didn't die, might as well get up and start getting things done. If I could just not be disappointed at being alive from testosterone, it would all completely be worth it. Um, I would trade physical discomfort for that weight to be lifted, even partially. Obviously, I do expect there to be some sort of changes that I will be excited about with testosterone. Um, something that will make me really happy about it if I go on it. But that's the thing that I'm hoping for the most, is that influx of confidence and that lowering of grief. Not feeling like every single day is my own funeral. Even happy days. Even days that go well. Not living like that anymore. Not feeling torn between what I feel like I'm expected to be and what I am, and just being. I can't even imagine just being and that being enough. I have never been enough in my entire life. Not for anything or anyone. Certainly not for myself. There's a part of me that's scared that I want to transition just because I'm desperate for my life to be better. And that I think that this would make my life magically better, but I don't think it's magical. I think it's work. I think it's a lot of work. It's overwhelming how much work transitioning is. I'm not like young and foolish or whatever. I mean, comparatively, I realize, maybe someone in their 60s would say I'm young and foolish, but I'm not. I'm not being run at all by, pubescent hormones. Although if I do this, I will be. But I'm trying so hard to go through it all reasonably and logically, and not let my knowledge of the bad things that can happen make me forget the good things that could happen. I also, one of the girls asked me what my happiest moment was in my entire life. And it was interestingly a moment when I felt completely myself and I could literally just do anything I wanted. And I was very masculine. I was a man for a few hours. Uninhibitedly a man for a few hours without any judgment or non-acceptance or non-compliance or whatever you want to call it from anyone else in the room. I was just like, there was nothing else on my mind except just being and doing, and it's like the only moment I've ever had that. And it wasn't, oh hey, I'm, you know, camping with my dad or something like that. It wasn't. I was literally just in a hotel room with my two favorite people, and they just let me pick what I wanted for a few hours, just anything I wanted. And it was just like completely about me, and what we ate was about me, what we did was about me. Uh, uh, my life has never been about me, but for those few hours, my life was about me, and I was so happy. It was very fulfilling to even know that that could be possible, even for that short of a time. And that was a few years ago, and um, I think about that a lot. And I think it's the closest I've ever gotten to myself. And I was a man. And I hadn't thought about it until she asked me what was my best moment in my life, what was my happiest I'd ever been. I hadn't thought about it that the happiest I've ever been was when I was being a guy. It hadn't occurred to me that way until she phrased it that way. Um, like it was the best I've ever felt. And nobody else could see. I was just, again, I was just hiding in a hotel room with the girls. But I could see me. Like I felt so good. Anyway, I I didn't have any guilt either for those few hours about it, which is huge for me because I pretty much always feel guilty about my freaking masculinity at all times. I think I have a lot of prejudices and misogynistic views about men or whatever, and women, but it weirdly, instead of propelling me toward transitioning, it actually is like a hindrance to me transitioning. Um, I've seen a lot of people who had like issues with like men and stuff, and it makes them want to be the man. It makes them want to be the one who is in power and who has that position of authority and everything. And that way it's not them who's the victim or whatever. And me, I I am the kind of person, I don't want to cause harm. I I somehow managed to save my own life when I was 18, and I got out of a bad situation, but I left behind siblings. And I was looking through all the pictures in the photo albums, and I was sobbing looking at pictures of my siblings that they could have ended up better if I could have somehow done better. But at the same time, I wouldn't exist if I didn't get out. And it's like, I can logically understand, and I still feel so guilty. I I can logically understand that not all men are predatory. I can logically understand that there's some women who aren't afraid of men at all. Um, I've met some. Like, I know they exist. I've met them. And it still is there, this feeling of guilt that I would somehow be less good. And you had at me from when I was 5. I wanted to be good. I've always wanted to be good. I have fought my entire life to be a good person and for people to see me as a good person, and it's never been enough. There's always someone who's like, oh, but you're gay, or oh, but you don't make sense, or oh, but you're being crazy or stupid, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter what I have done. It doesn't matter how many, children I have helped in my life. I've volunteered years and years and years of my life with children. I've helped people with special needs for years and years of my life. Like actual decades of volunteering history, and none of that matters. I'm still not a good enough person. And I try really hard to be a good person. I try to be fair and treat everyone with dignity, and I try to be generous. I try to be helpful. I try to be there for people who need it more than me. And I live in poverty. But having grown up in worse poverty, I'm like, I have shelter and I have food, and there's some people who don't. I've always wanted to help people. Ever since I was a baby, I've always been that way. And I realized that transitioning doesn't change your personality. Who you are personality-wise isn't going to just magically transform completely or whatever. And yet there's a part of me that's like scared of losing wanting to be good. I'm still scared of being bad. And I'm trying to work with my therapist about that because I realize that's trauma related. That's not honest. That's a feeling, that's not a fact. I'm trying. I'm trying so hard to process everything and go through everything. I've hardly been gaming. The girls are like, "Oh, let's play," and I'm like, "Let me spend 3 hours thinking about this one thing instead of gaming with them." But I feel like this is probably one of the biggest things I could ever figure out. Possibly the biggest. And I feel like I've been trying to figure it out my whole life. Even if I can come to a place where I accept that I'm a man, and it's not just that I want to be a man, because I think it would be better to be a man, but that, I mean, in some ways I have accepted that I've always been male-minded. I've always been masculine. I've always had some more male mannerisms. I don't really talk with my hands, for instance. Like, I'm not that way. Or, like, I don't really gossip or get, like, into drama and stuff. Like, I have no time for that. And no interest. I feel like I tend to stand more like a guy than a girl most of the time. Like my posture is bad, and yet somehow I still come across as more like masculine or whatever than I have my entire life. Like I've always done these things that are more boyish leaning or whatever, however you want to say that. I mean, yes, a girl can stand, more masculine. I'm not trying to say they can't. I'm just saying I realize that the way that I think is probably more male. Because girls have never understood the way that I think. But I also find it difficult that even if I come to a place where I accept that I am a man, like fully, completely accept that, even though I feel trapped in the wrong body, it doesn't matter. What matters is wanting to actually fix that. And it's not just that I'm scared of bad physical consequences of that. I'm scared of how emotionally to not feel guilty about it. You can be a man and not want to be a man, because being a man symbolizes so many things that represent pain. And I'm not angry. For the most part, the root of anger is grief. I spend a lot of time being bitter inside, grieving for myself. And I have my entire life. I was first told by a doctor I had chronic depression when I was 6 years old. So, ironically, most children can identify their gender by 6. But that's just anecdotal. um, that's the problem with a lot of this, is it's really hard to nail down.